everybody. I'm Paras. As long as if you're able to come on the video, would be great to see everyone. And thanks for Kanan for introducing me to this particular wonderful group of 19 members, 19, 20, whatever the rising numbers are. Yes, I would say I'm one of the accomplished coaches because I've worked very hard for the last 17 years in my life, and I also got an issue with OCD. I call it as obsessive compulsive disorder of learning. So my mother says to me that Paras, by now, if you'd have, 50%, if you'd have saved, we would have had our own house and own office. So yes, that learning goes on. So when I went to Gallup, I learned that learning is one of my strengths, and that's how my journey has begun. And I'm very excited to learn more and keep growing. I still do not want to feel the level of that I've reached a level of satisfaction. I feel that we can still grow. And my topic for today is very interesting to all of you. And my sessions are usually conversational and experimental and also group discussions. So I wonder if everybody would be able to participate because I don't believe just my energy to go one way. I require people to connect, come back and learn more and talk about it. So we will try our best to make it more interesting. What I want to check in with all of you is how have you been in this pandemic? How have you been managing, coping, or going ahead in the last 7, 8, 9 months? How have you been? So if you would like to put it on the chat, I'd like to learn more about yourself. And it's always good to learn more from everyone. And meanwhile, I'll do a screen sharing as well. Okay. So I can check your messages in case if you'd like to pen it down quickly. How have you been so far? How have you been managing yourself, managing people, managing your clients, your family at large? So just message I will read out in due course of the time. So my topic for all of you today is about rising need of mental health awareness for coaches. So we've been doing, I think we've been doing a great job. All the coaches who are attending here and people across the community at large are doing a fantastic job for working with people and supporting them and helping them to feel better. So let me build a context to appreciate all of you first, that you're doing a fabulous job. And I'm so happy to witness everyone in this program today. So maybe I would like to start my journey with connection of pandemic and rising need of mental health. Now, if you look back to pandemic has created a lot of issues in various different spaces, like let's say about a family system where the kids are not allowed to go outside. There is a small house. The working parents are working and taking care of the family. So there's a lot of frustration, anxiety, stress, what's people undergoing, leading further to a lot of depression and sadness. On the other side, I also see kids, a lot of anger issues rising up because of being at home, how much to play on the video games and how much to study on the phone or on the computer for too long, where the growing age is to go out and have a lot of fun. While I also see this pandemic impact on the school system, where the school was not ready yet to really support with technology. And I see a lot of learning happening on WhatsApp phone call. There's a small phone call, or maybe a middle class family or a lower middle class family who cannot afford a phone had to purchase a phone. And with that small mini phones where the internet connection is not well, and the sessions are going on. So it's creating again a lot of pressure to a lot of school students as well as teachers and the family system again. So again, there is a growing need of mental health coming up. On the other side, in offices, when you look at mental health is rising very high, especially in men's section, I say there's a high level of depression and anger shooting up because your jobs are not just 9 to 5 or 9 to 8, they're now going infinite, where you start in the morning, you log in, you never know, whenever you get a call, you have to serve your customers, you need to be on calls. So if you, again, there is a lot of pressure from the boss, the HR going through calling people. I realize some of them, HR professionals I was talking to, and they were sharing that Paris nowadays, when we call any of our employees just to check how are you, they have a fear, a constant fear, will I be losing my job? So in the midst of all of this, there is a lot of depression, anxiety, stress, a lot of fear, a lot of anxiety, a lot of fear about fear of loss, fear of unknown. And all of these are brought together at different intervals in a coaching context, where a client calls up and say, I'm feeling depressed, I'm feeling sad, I want to work on myself, I want to channelize my emotions, or I do not know, I'm feeling not very comfortable. And imagining that if a lot of my coach friends, colleagues who are working, are attending these clients at regular intervals, maybe 6 hours of coaching. I've seen some of the coaches that I interacted personally were doing like 8 hours and 9 hours of coaching. They get one after the other, and a lot of burnout issues that we found that was rising within themselves. So it is very important to focus on how self-care for coaches is very, very important. How can I trim my own hair? How can I take care of my own self? How can I coach myself? Or am I aware about it? So that's the context I would like to address in today's session. I love if there are any questions emerging for you, feel free to come back, write, talk to me directly. Would be a great space to be. So, a little research activity from the WHO. According to WHO, the COVID-19 pandemic is highlighting the need to urgently increase investment in service for mental health, or risk a massive increase in mental health conditions in the coming months. The impact of pandemic on people's mental health is already extremely concerning, said Dr. Tedros, Director General of World Health Organization. Also, social isolation and fear of contagion and loss of family members is compounded by the distress caused by loss of income and often employment. Also, at a community level, people have been passing messages like in my society, if there is one person found COVID around somewhere, the chats on the discussion were like we found something, like as if like this person is has done some kind of crime to be in the COVID, going through COVID experience. So community also was getting discomfortable messages were passed, and a lot of fear was being created. I realized for my parents at point of time after watching these messages and things in the early month of April and May, that I used to be very restrictive, and that again created a lot of conflict with family members. So leading again to anger, again leading to stress and further dysfunctional negative emotions. So let me also present some of the observations shared by mental health specialists in India on the occasion of the World Mental Health Day, 10th October. There was a conference between the mental health workers where the professor and head of psychiatry department at Ludhiana's Dayanand Medical College and Hospital, Dr. Ranjivi Mahajan said, the number of patients with mental health issues has increased by almost 70% during pandemic due to the rising fear of uncertainty. While Dr. Pallavi from Christian Medical College and Hospital said that the anxiety, apprehensions, unemployment, social distancing, lack of physical contact with other family members, increasing rate of suicide, drug abuse, and depression have become widespread as the world struggles to bring the coronavirus under control. So that's again growing a lot of pressure on many other mental health workers. So I believe coaching has merged for me because I'm a mental health worker, I'm a counselor and a psychotherapist, apart from being a coach for long. So in my journey, I realized coaching has been a part of counseling job. But however, because in US in the 80s and 90s, there's been a lot of medical thing with associated with counseling and clinical work. So coaching became very different and became very unique. And ICF today, when I look back, has done a massive, amazing job to provide opportunities for coaches to look at the employment opportunities as well as work with clients and support them in their mental health work as well. So we all contribute working with clients. Only if there are clinical or some sort of progress which is requires some more than coaching. That's where we draw boundaries and we build bridges out there. So I have a question for all of you here, which I'm going to put you into teams of about randomly. I do not know, maybe in a group of 3 or 4. I would like to learn from all of you what qualities coaches bring in their practice. Like something that came to me was being there for my clients or being humble. Okay. What other things do you associate in your practice? So Kanan, I would like to probably invite you to help me if we
Uh,
can all.
sure. So can we make them groups of three? There will be
Yes,
six groups.
yes. We can give 3 and maybe 5 minutes max or
Yeah,
6 minutes
sure,
max.
sure,
That
sure.
works.
3 and 6 months. Yeah.
Yeah, the
Good.
question is there, and what qualities coaches bring in their practice. Okay, so you being a coach, in case if you're not a coach and you're just working to become a coach or you're in your journey, please participate because we all are natural coaches as well. The moment we feel that we want to work with people, we are playing the role knowingly or unknowingly as a role of a coach. So we will give you say about 5 minutes to be in your teams and help each other to share. And maybe whatever answers you get, you can put that on the common chat when we come back in the main room.
Sure. Just assigning them to the rooms.
Sure. Okay, I've also been assigned here, so I will be switching different teams as well.
Yeah. Usha and Krishna.
Yes, please. Can you assign me to a room?
You would have got the invite. You are already assigned. Yeah. Assigned to. Let me do it. Give me a minute. Yeah. And Krishna. Krishna, are you there? Uh, RKT. I'm just assigning to a breakout room. Is that okay? Can you hear me? RKT Krishnan, I'm just assigning you to a room. There's a breakout activity going on. Is that okay? You're on mute. I'm not able to hear you. Yeah, can I assign you to one of the rooms?
Hi.
Yeah, yes, Ms. Krishnan.
I'm sorry,
Can I
I
do it?
want to see if I'm at the right place.
Sorry?
Then I was just looking to see if I'm at the right place.
No, you are at the right place, but there is a breakout activity going on. I'm just moving you to one of the breakout rooms.
Sorry,
So you
sorry.
can.
I was in an office call just finished, therefore I was late to join.
Sure. I'm just moving you to one of the rooms. Yeah. Krishna, can you hear us? Suresh? Suresh, can you hear me?
So welcome back in the main room, Usha, Suresh. Glad to see everyone. Mohammed.
Hi.
Yes, I haven't met you, but I'm hearing a lot about you from groups since the time when I entered in. So it looks like you're a very famous and wanted coach here.
You're talking about me?
I'm talking about Mohammed Nasser. Yes.
No. I've been very active. So
Yes. So that's great. Great.
thank you so much.
So we're waiting for the rest of them to join in as well.
Yeah.
So in the meanwhile, as you have already done your discussion with your team, anything that comes out for you all to share with me and the whole group as well? Anything, what qualities do you think you demonstrate? Some of them can put that on the chat. Some of them can share their thoughts. What was a group consensus together? Some common points that you have. Just share it out as in your own way.
Sure. Myself, Architect Krishna and Ravi were part of the group, and we had the discussion. There are a couple of things that came out, but one thing that came out at the end of it was the bonding that the pandemic has brought in within the coaches, right? Mostly we were working on silos, but here it has brought in together as coaches for you, and the ICF chapter connects that we have. That's one. So the bonding between coaches and how we are living, that's one. The other one adaptability and flexibility to the technology, right? How we have been doing our profession, carrying out a profession, and how we do it now. That has changed. That the quality that you're bringing now for our coaches also has changed. There are a few other things that came out. We are able to live with much less resources than what we had before, right? And we are not influenced by the market forces anymore. And we are more grounded because now we understand the reality of the reality, right? So we are grounded, and we know how we have been experiencing, we know what our coaches are also experiencing. So we are being along with them, caring for them, and moving on. So this is a whole summary. Later I can add more if you need.
Thank you for sharing that. And we have Sundar saying that listening and patience that we bring. What Usha and our team says at presence for all three. And Maheshwaran says authentic, vulnerable, being present and creating safe space to discuss. And Usha says mirroring clients' reality to show our regard and respect for client reality. Coaches are able to facilitate this psychological safety, yes, anchoring mental health and creativity. Absolutely. Thank you for sharing so many things. Fabulous learning. Yes, Chandrasekhar, would you like to jump in? You're on mute, maybe. Yeah.
Consensus, we try to make a list of share the practices. There were overlaps actually. One is of course empathy and listening, where I added to the listening, the wholesome listening in my own terms, that is verbal, non-verbal, tone, as well as the emotions, and listening to the message rather than the, that's what I call wholesome listening. Then being non-judgmental, being attentive, full attention to the client. That's a great quality that one should have, because we could miss critical information that's coming out from the conversation. And Kumar added a beautiful point that, in the faced with a client who's in a hurry to extract a solution from you, holding them away from that thought and giving them comfort that they will be able to find a solution by themselves for their issues is a great quality that one should have, that Kumar added. So these are some of the things that we have identified. Thank you.
Lovely. Thanks everybody. For me, I think it just came out to be being there for my clients, and also if you look at with all the context that you're sharing, there's a lot of exchange of energy that happens between you and your clients. And when you are spending a lot of energy, there's also times when client is looking from coaches are secured attachment. That means they rely, they would like to get support from us. They are looking for hope. They're looking for some sort of motivation, some sort of inspiration, empowerment. So when they are expecting, that means there's a lot of energy that gets exchanged. And when it is energy exchange, there's a lot of psychological space that we sometimes don't identify, and we go with the flow, and we tend to feel drained at the end of the day. If you have experienced something like that, it's a good space for us, all of us, to explore in today's topic. I would like to start with a short video and then come to the topic, the sense of the topic that I want to establish here. So if you like to make notes, you can. Your mental diary is more important for me. So just try to share the screen, and yeah. Okay. So pause the video, the further part goes into more branding. So what the premise that I'm building for all of you today is, how are we more comfortable? How are we accounting ourselves for taking care of our own selves? And if you're able to see this, now there's a few things what I have learned about myself and the coaches that I interact. And this is something what I share with you is my perspective. And you can always check if you relate to it is good. If it doesn't relate to it is fine too, because there is no absolute reality. It is all varied perceptions. So there are common drivers, which I picked up from transaction analysis. There are common drivers which are observed in mental health workers. It could be counselors, coaches, therapists, and healers. And if you resonate to some of them, please feel free to put that on the chat. It would be great to get an endorsement of how do you go through it. So many times in many of the forums, I ask coaches, how are you doing? And how are you handling this pandemic? And 70% of the coaches or 80% of the coaches said, we're doing great, we're doing fine, which is not a complaint at all. But is that a cognitive answer, or have they really processed this question to themselves? Because there are drivers which are something which are called as coping mechanisms of how do we cope with realities, how do we cope with tough situations. And these are the hats where a lot of mental health workers tend to wear it. One of them is called a be strong driver. A be strong is something that to come across as I am strong, I'm okay, I will manage it, I will hold, I will handle things up. So think about times in your life, not only just coaches, that you ended up handling too many things and felt some sort of withdrawal, felt drained out, maybe that evening, or it could be the following day. So check it out. Be strong is one of the drivers that impacts. We tend to put that kind of face that, hey, I can manage it. Like when pandemic started, there were a lot of cures going on. I myself was wearing this strong hat because I come from a family, partially South Indian and Marathi family, where I was told that men need to be strong so that they are men. So that was a natural in my DNA being there. So even if I do not recognize unconsciously, I tend to wear that hat. And after some days, I started feeling overwhelming. I was feeling not comfortable. There are times I was feeling that, okay, what's going to happen next? But I'm just showing myself being strong. And one fine day that came up and said, hey, I have to really be voice out. Something is not working well. And I reached out to many of my supervisor, mentor, coaches, peer coaching, peer supervision, and started to express out what's going on. So it helped me a lot to be myself, connected to myself, because I'm okay to be vulnerable. I'm okay to feel that discomfort. There could be also a possibility where you handle some clients where you are not at all aware about the kind of client's narrative or client's context completely, or when you hear it and you're hearing it for the first time and you do not know how to process it. Or maybe you're also going through the similar situation, but you haven't been able to even think about it. And that kind of situation comes in. What happens to you if you tend to be a strong? You will tend to contain the energy of the client, and containing it to something which you're not able to understand it. It has its own replication. Or there's another driver a lot of coaches and many other mental health workers go through is a be perfect. I have to be perfect in my coaching. I have to be perfect in my practice. I should not make a mistake. I should be all the time on my toes, be perfect. And that really creates a lot of pressure and stress to many coaches. So in case if you have experienced at different occasion one of these drivers, just check with yourself that what permission you don't have to work with yourself. What permission can you give it to yourself in order to be imperfectly perfect? So there is a sort of permission to be you in that whole space which you've created. Also, there are times when we do not understand, or this client is beyond coaching, or this client is in coaching but not able to relate to your style of coaching. And if the try hard comes in, you tend to become like the problem solver unconsciously, or tend to solve or help and tend to be there, being available, and you're trying your hard to work with the client. Check it out if something like that, if you resonate too, it's important for you to say, hey, looks like, how is this journey going with you and me? Are you feeling comfortable? Or I'm getting a feeling that I'm not supporting enough. So just wanted to check with you curiously. So when I'm again giving it up my try hard to being comfortable and being asking and communicating and checking with the client itself can be a good relief for you to get your validation that, okay, are we on the right track? But these drivers are something also good at some level because they're all coping strategies. But if they're overly used in your practice, it can have its own derailers. So I will take a pause here and I will check if there are any questions for me before I could move on to next. Yeah.
I have a question. Maybe I'm rewinding. This Chandrasekhar?
Chandrasekhar, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's interesting that you have classified coaches as one of the mental health workers, rubbing shoulders with counselors, therapists, and healers. So I just want to ask a basic question about, is there a standard definition to mental health? What do we include and what do we exclude?
Yeah. So if you see, we are running a program which is on mental health from a global perspective, which is happening on October 24th in Tavamitram. It's a non-profit. So what we are bringing out an awareness that when we're looking at a mental health work, it's not just limited to clinical work only. There are also a lot of people who are contributing to mental health to mental well-being. Now, for example, I may have a grandiose fantasy of saying I'm feeling depressed, okay? But I may be feeling very sad. So people, when they're bringing out these concepts, it's important in coaching when I get a client who says that I'm feeling depressed. So I ask them, well, what do you mean by that? And in the coaching dialogue, it comes out a conversation that they're just a little disappointed.
Okay.
Because a depressed person, let's take an example, I get a client I get a call from a family member saying that, can you talk to this person who's not getting out of his bed or doesn't like to take bath for like days. Now that's not a client for coaching. Okay, so for me, when I look at a mental health is how am I contributing to have congruency in clients' thinking, feeling of their emotions and their actions.
Okay.
So if a coach, if a client comes to me, a C-suite client or a life leadership coaching or spiritual coaching, what are the client looking at is changing and altering their behavior pattern.
Okay.
But what you're working with the client is they are having a clarity in their thinking and their feelings and how are they congruent to their actions.
Okay. So which means that any misalignment in the thought, the feelings and the actions qualifies to be identified as a mental health for this purpose, right?
So I look at the mental health from a different perspective. If you look at only a very traditional DSM-4, okay, which is more from the clinical diagnostic work, mental health could be considered for clinical patients, people who are going through maybe multiple personality disorder, schizophrenic, and all of this.
Okay.
But when you read the schizophrenic definitions, you'll find, hey, I resonate here as well sometimes. When I was going through my MSc in psychotherapy, I was reading that whole manual and I was finding myself everywhere. And I went to my teacher and said, okay, looks like there's some problem with me. The teacher said that, what scale is it? 1 to 10? Is it 8, 9, 10? Is it 4, 5, 6? Is it just 1, 2, 3? So personality adaptation is a part of we adapt to certain style of a behavior.
Okay.
Like for example, if I have learned in my family system that when in doubt, my dad shouted, I have adopted that style, okay? But is it dysfunctional in the current context? But if I'm abusive in my workplace, that requires not coaching, maybe more, because then we require family history and things. So to answer your question, what I look at mental health is not only that much. There are so many other roles today have evolved, right? From Reiki healers, pranic healers, theta healers, hypnotherapists, NLP practitioners, mindfulness practitioners, lifefulness practitioners, coaching. So my website, one of my other websites, I have 8, 9 websites. So one of my website is Mental Strength Professional. So I do not want to be identified as I'm a counselor or a therapist or a hypnotherapist. I'm all working with building mental strength of people.
Okay.
So I see the evolving change now from just the clinical trial work to more. I have worked with clients purely coaching who had smoking issues with
Oh,
one session, 2 sessions. So I feel what I learned from my stories is how much ready the client is and how ready are you to be with the client, that partnership and the energy exchange. If I'm tired, it will reflect in that session.
yes.
I do a lot of coach training, and if I'm tired that particular evening, people will point out and message me separately, are you okay? And I put up a facade that I'm all good. Unconsciously, people pick up energy.
Okay.
So it's very important to look at now coaching. Also, we are contributing to a lot of support to mental health. When clients are coming to me and saying that I'm feeling worried about my future, do I need to say, no, that's not my problem, go to a counselor? Or I can just be with the client, check, and if it's something more than coaching that doesn't fall into my purview or my knowledge or awareness, I have to support that to somebody else. Like I had a client who showed me a video of their child being rage and wants to hit. And so I said, that's not even in counseling I want to get into. Can you get him to a psychiatric doctor first? And then we will talk to the doctor if he can require therapy required for it. So I have to be mindful about that. As a coach, I'm not judging, but I'm observing. But when I'm observing from my 5 senses and asking the client, how is it helping you? If there is something more than my work, then we have many other mental health professionals who can support you. That was a brilliant question. Thanks for encouraging these conversations, because I see a lot of our journey moving from mental health to mental well-being. People who would like to come to me just not because they are feeling upset or sad or depressed, but they would like to feel better about themselves or find meaning to their existence. So I still contribute to mental health, to mental well-being.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chandrasekhar, once again. Anyone else has any questions? Feel free to jump in. Thank you, Vijay and everybody. Okay, so I will go straight to the next slides. So before I could go to the next slide, I want to check with all of you first. How are you, as you're listening to this conversation, what are you taking for yourself? Any one key takeaway you feel, or how are you feeling at this moment? Could be also another question. Whichever question resonates to you, feel free to put that on the chat. It's good to also keep encouraging all the great brains who are partnering with me in this journey. I like mindfulness. Yeah, Kumar, thank you. How about the rest of them? Thought-provoking, feel grounded. Thank you, Vijay, Maheshwaran. Yeah. And remember, there are no taxes on typing, so feel free to type as much as you can. I feel grounded, hopeful, yeah. And we're all doing such a brilliant job here. Trust me, this has been a lot of pressure on coaches. People are reaching out because of the stigma of mental health. People don't relate to counselors, therapists. They want to go to coaches. Like there's a pride feeling that, hey, I have a coach. So that also shows me there's a lot of growing pressure on coaches. So, and we end up having a lot of positive energy and we tend to discharge them. But do we also recharge our batteries? So that's where I would like to take you further to the next session, next chapter of this session. Practical mental health to mental well-being and purposeful. Thank you. Okay. So I'm here. So let's look at what are the different areas that coaches and how coaches can recharge their batteries. So first, let's understand what are the areas that can get impacted in your practice. And these are intense and a little bit more deeper. So if you don't understand something, feel free to ask me today or even later. I'm supportive and flexible there. So one of the areas that I would like to talk about me, because I like to relate myself So it's more meaningful for me when I'm sharing it. So there are a lot of blind spots. So if I'm not working on myself, I am having a lot of my blind spots, which may shine in that room when the client walks in or in the coaching session. Or there could be counter transferences that I may also get. Maybe when I do back-to-back coaching, now I have started drawing boundaries for the last 1.5 years, where if I have a client from 12 to 1, the next client would be anything after 1:30 or maybe 2, but not at 1 o'clock, because business is coming, business is growing, whether I'm doing paid coaching or I'm doing a complementary coaching or I'm supporting humanity, but I need to also be supporting the human inside me. So there are times when I used to not do it. I used to experience the prior client's energy in the room still. So there is a lot of counter transference from your own stories can pop out from your unconsciousness. Or in your body sensation, you are holding clients' anxiety or your own anxiety or your own pressure that, hey, I have 4 clients today, I have to make sure, because there's a be perfect driver and you are now looking at to have everything in place. So there is a lot of body sensation that's not comforting. So these are, again, growing areas that we need to look at. Or sometimes projections. Maybe you start projecting on the client your own fears, or the client starts projecting on you their own fears and pressures as well. So how can you be mindfully be aware that not to take it on you, but to acknowledge it and check with the client? And the whole mindfulness energy exchange. So to make it much simpler and easier for you, I'm going to take you through a short video, which is more on understanding what are transferences, and then we can talk a little bit more in case if you need some more information. So if you're ready, you can always have a button which says thumbs up, so I know that you're ready for the video without the popcorns. Great, great. Thank you. This is how I like to see whether you are there with me or you've gone somewhere else. I'm just kidding, but I'm just trying to bring everybody in the room. Yeah. All right, so this is a video for all of you. Make some notes. If you feel confused, take some notes as well. This recording will be available. You can check with Kanan, would be the right person to talk to you all.
Eric Berne demystified personalities for us in 1958 with his transactional analysis model. Find out more about TA with Dr. Paris's TA for non-TA series. This is the 10th of the series. But before you proceed further, click the subscribe button to our channel to receive updates on the next video. Hi, I'm glad to see you back. It's been a wonderful journey unraveling the depths of transactional analysis. If you've been implementing what you've learned, well, congratulations. I'm proud of you. It's a tough journey to learn about yourself, but the beauty is in the transformation that lies in your own hands. Are you ready to begin this journey? Today, we'll look at symbiosis, transference, countertransference, projections, and retroflections. So, hold on to your seatbelts to dive into the depths of intense knowledge. Do you know people move in and out of symbiosis every day? What is symbiosis, you may ask? In Schiffian theory, a symbiosis is said to occur when 2 or more individuals behave as though between them they form a single person. This can typically happen in a romantic relationship between a parent and a child, siblings, and more. If you followed our earlier videos, you know there are 3 different ego states, and this has a relation with symbiosis. The ego states are parent, adult, and child. As always, I'll tell you a quick story. A mother is teaching her young son how to prepare meals. While she explains the steps, she turns around and questions if he remembers the recipe she has discussed and if he can add the final touches. Her son sits quietly and appears distracted. Finally, the mother says, "Son, it looks like you don't remember a thing. Here's what you need to do to complete this recipe." Her son continues jotting things down. This situation is an example that both have moved into a symbiosis. The son discounts his adult and parent ego states and does not use his ability to think and find a solution for the question. The mother steps into adult and parent ego state and discounts her child ego state. She should have realized that she should make her son use his resources to solve the problem himself. Can you see what is happening here? It's a comfort level that has been established. Symbiosis happens when every person is performing a role meant for them. But in this process, people do not use their grown-up resources in their daily life. A healthy long-term romantic relationship may also be based on symbiosis, wherein the wife plays the role of a pleaser, and the husband plays the role of the parent and adult. This couple will experience stability, but may develop resentment over time due to being discounted. A partner may also feel they cannot be on their own without the other. Moving out of the symbiosis, however, is not always comfortable, but offers flexibility and less predictability. There are two types of symbiosis: healthy and unhealthy. A healthy symbiosis occurs when the people involved do not discount each other's capabilities. An unhealthy symbiosis quite often involves discounting. Let me make it easier for you. A newly born child is not capable of looking after himself. He thus needs the symbiosis with his mother to solve problems and to be cared for. He has a very less developed adult or parent ego state. What the mother needs to do is to be aware of her own child's needs. She needs to cater to this while caring for the child. As the child grows up and turns into an adult, both the mother and the child must be able to stand independently. Symbiosis might also end up as a replay of past situations. In an unhealthy symbiosis, we replay old childhood situations where the needs were never catered to. So, we recreate the same script to repeat the same results. What's interesting is that people may even signal to each other unknowingly about the symbiotic relationship they wish to establish. This is not always about words. The child in our earlier example was only conveying to his mother that, "You need to think for me, and you must show me that recipe yourself." Symbiosis is more than this. A competitive symbiosis can also happen when two people want to display the same ego state. Guests after a party may insist on offering help to clean up by saying, "Hey, I'll do that for you." The host may say, No, I can do it, that's okay." The guest may continue, "I absolutely insist, let me help you clean up the room." This can go on with different results. I'm sure you might have identified with some of the situations. Symbiosis is a deep subject to study, as you may find a second symbiosis that goes on beneath the first. There's another interesting study in transactional analysis called transference, which is actually known as putting a face on someone. Wow, that's deep. This means when you communicate and relate the person and the current situation to someone from the past, there's a transference happening there. Transference goes beyond our rules and beliefs as learned from parents. This is about your own deeply rooted patterns that exist in the depths of our subconscious mind. Here's a story to understand this. Pam was in conversation with her manager. He vehemently denies her suggestions for the projects and even raises his voice at her. He says, "You should have consulted me before going ahead with this." Pam, instead of using her adult awareness, is faced with transference. She feels upset and relates her manager to someone from her past, her father. His energy is reminiscent of her father, which acts as the trigger. Thus, she unknowingly plasters her father's image onto the manager and develops resentment along the way. She mumbles, "I so hate this man, he's mean." What happens when transference occurs? 1. A person may argue. 2. A person may go quiet. 3. A person may play sick. This concept is useful to understand your interactions in daily life. Don't forget to replay some incidents from your current situation and past where you may have faced transference. You can write this down once you complete this TA video. Remember, transference can be positive as well as negative. Psychoanalyst Heinz Kohut identified 3 types of transference. 1. Mirroring. As the name suggests, a person finds the occurrence of a transference when others serve as a medium to reflect back the person's self-worth. For example, a child may need his parents to confirm and say, "Hey, you are doing great." 2. Idealization. Here, a person looks for someone who calms their senses and brings in comfort. A child may grow up to idealize his parents. He finds great strength and power in them and internalizes these qualities within. 3. Twinship. This is about a person's need to find some semblance in another. For example, children often imitate their parents in terms of behaviors seen. As they grow up, they develop relationships that may have similar characteristics to themselves. Now we'll understand countertransference. What is countertransference? This defines a counselor or a therapist's reaction to his or her client's transference. Sounds confusing? Let me simplify it for you. A client named Patrick goes to a counselor named Steve. Patrick replays his problems and triggers the counselor's own memory. Steve relates the situation to his child. Patrick may feel anger, and he may transfer his anger towards Steve. The problem occurs when Steve begins to treat Patrick as his own child. He becomes controlling and tries to act demanding while offering solutions. Steve needs to create a healthy two-way process for communication. What he does is attempt to control, and this impacts the client-counselor relationship. What's important is the counselor or therapist being able to retain his middle ground without the presence of countertransference or personal ideas. Countertransference can occur in various methods, wherein the counselor may recreate some semblance to the past in many different ways. Well, that's why both transference and countertransference involve the past. In countertransference, the patterns of the past may affect the therapy process. Here, the client may experience transference, and the counselor experiences countertransference. If you followed this far, then congratulations. You've opened the doors to understand the self and the world around you. Let's now take a look at projections. Projections in psychology is considered to be a defense mechanism that one uses to avoid feelings that bring in discomfort. This means a person may project their difficult feelings onto another. An individual may display a controlling behavior, jealousy, anger, or more. These are characteristics that belong to one's own self. Let's take an example of Paul. He gets into a disagreement with his girlfriend named Bella. He yells at her and says, "You have an anger issue." She gets taken aback and runs off while slamming the door. Can you see what is happening here? Carl Jung defined this as the shadow self. Paul projects his behavior onto his girlfriend. He uses this defense mechanism, wherein anger is something that belongs to his own personality trait. Soon after the incident, Paul decides to shift his mood altogether by going to a party at his local hangout. Paul does not acknowledge his feelings of despair at himself for flying off the handle too soon. Instead, he disassociates with his feelings while pulling on the garb of being an entirely different person at the party venue. And this, my friends, is deflection. This is about ignoring one's triggers, which can be internal or external. This is used to shift the attention to something else that changes the current mood and diffuses the situation, causing pain, fear, worry, or more. Examples of this would be a person who cracks a joke in a serious situation, or someone ignoring a compliment being paid by another. Gestalt psychology mentions it as either blocking the trigger or turning away from that particular emotion. In the meanwhile, what has happened to Bella? She has run off in tears after her fight with Paul. Sadness and anger filled within her. She reaches home, feels misunderstood, has an emotional outburst, and breaks her favorite bottle of fragrance. This direction of energy is directed inwards. Bella turns her emotions back onto herself. What is happening here? This is retroflexion. Bella is tired of Paul shouting at her. Her stored up energy has almost led to self-harm. Retroflexion may be manifested in various ways. Instead of addressing the problem and dealing with the happenings outwards, a person engages in acts that are self-destructive. Bella may hit the pillow, cut herself, find herself performing poorly at work, kick things around. Retroflexion is not always about violence, though. It can also lead to emptiness within. This means Bella may make many plans about her life. She materializes none. She has blocked the action unconsciously. She is safe in this zone where she does not have to take a risk of disappointment if things do not turn out the way they should. Bella can also go into depression, and depression is not always about sadness. It can also be feeling nothing within. Bella may make mountains out of molehills about future consequences. What she needs to do is confront these areas and choose an action that brings in a chance for growth. How else can Bella find contentment within unless she opens up her emotions freely by learning to let go of what does not serve her purpose? I'm sure this video must have set many things turning in your mind. Here are the key takeaways. 1. In Shiffian theory, a symbiosis is said to occur when two or more individuals behave as though between them they form a single person. 2. Symbiosis can be positive or negative. 3. Transference is about putting a face on someone. You relate the person to someone from your past. 4. Countertransference happens between a client and a counselor. This defines a coach or a counselor's reaction to his or her client's transference. 5. Projections happen when a person may project their difficult feelings onto another. 6. Deflection is about shifting one's attention from the current mood to one that brings a change in the mood. Here, a person may either block the external or internal trigger, or turn away from the situation itself. 7. Retroflexion is about turning stored up energy upon oneself instead of out into the environment. This is not always about violence and may lead to depression. With that, we conclude this chapter, and we are so elated to have you with us on our journey. I can't thank you enough, and I look forward to seeing your comments.
Okay, so welcome back. Thank you. So just checking with all of you, if you're with me watching through this video, how has been your learning so far? Are there any questions? How are you feeling? Any information you need more? But if you notice the kind of work that we do so much deep work when we talk about the energy exchange and stuff. So I'm just opening the dialogue with everybody. If there are any questions for me, or what are you learning about for yourself, the kind of role that you play, and all these things are so much there in our own process.
Bharat, I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
This deflection and retroflexion.
Yes.
Is it inborn?
When you say inborn, rather than these are coping strategies.
Okay.
How am I learning from the environment?
Okay.
Like, for example, if my dad was a very angry person in my childhood, I saw him only demonstrating anger. So I know there's only one emotion that is there. When you're not happy, when you're sad, when things are not going well, only one emotion is prominent. You're happy or you're angry. Okay. So I got aware about emotional intelligence and resilience in due course of the time when different emotions were something I was not aware about, maybe cognitively aware, but in person, how can I relate to them?
Is it anything
So,
connected with extroversion versus introversion since you referred the Jung here?
yeah. So when we look at the MBTI, okay, what Carl Jung's the MBTI theory as a whole, it talks about your personality style, your preference. So if I'm a person who is an introvert or an extrovert, I could be combination of both or an ambivert as well. It could be a possibility that resembles I more resonate to extrovert example, but the introvert is also part of me. So it's not like a boundaries of 50-50, 40-90 or something. So these two are the deflection and reflection, retroflexion can happen in different contexts in the way you process information and the way, see, your personality is a combination of three things. One is genetics, one is environment, and one is situation. How in different proportions they are combined together. And that's how the development of that person takes place. So on those lines, how the person, in what context does that person deflect? In what context that person retroflect? Okay, what kind of permission he has, what permission he doesn't have. That's the permission I'm talking from oneself, not from the environment or somebody. Okay, so I would so the personality choices, preferences could be just a preference. These are certain behaviors that you may do unknowingly or knowingly with your awareness of wherever you are about your emotions and about situations.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like for example, somebody smoking, okay, if I go in a therapeutic language, because now when I'm showing about transference, countertransference, today this has moved from counseling to coaching. There are only 2 coaches currently who are certified as a coach supervisor from EMCC, and there are many more in progress. So I'm one of them. So when I was going through the journey, I realized, hey, this is all, moving from counseling. Now we're moving to coaching, but that's how it is. Now there's a new trend coming up as well that coaches also need after 30, 40 hours, not only mentoring, but also take supervision. To learn more about supervision from my PPT that Kanan will share with you, has some blogs and also some videos to watch. So you can be mindful with what kind of supervision you can ask for. And there's a difference between mentoring and supervision. There may be one person can play both the roles, but there is a boundaries of both exist differently. Away. So have I been able to answer your question?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Thanks for us.
Yeah, deflection and retroflexion is a part of our co-expression. So maybe when I'm not able to cope with that situation, I'm projected on somebody else. Okay. So and retroflexion is something that I punish myself. So if I'm angry, I will go and smoke or drink or eat sugar, go shopping. Okay, break things out. So that could be the retroflexion to that particular context of my disappointment.
Sure. Yeah, thanks for that.
Okay.
Paras,
How about yeah?
May I ask you a question on this?
Yes.
Yeah. So, Paras, can deflection be practiced? Say, I know that I am particularly introvert, but it may harm me in some way, or I may harm myself. So can I know it and do something so that I can practice deflection, which is much better way of handling the emotion at a particular instant?
Yeah, so I want to clarify the myth about introvert and extrovert. Okay, so when we talk about being an introvert, that means I like to process things within myself. That does not mean that I will hold the emotions. An extrovert can also hold the emotions.
Okay.
In different contexts. Like for example, I'll give you a very simple example. If just assume I'm coming from a very joint family, family-owned business and things. and I'm an extrovert. I get energy from the outside. That's my personality preference style. But in front of my family patriarchy or matriarchy system, I may not be able to voice out my opinion. So that whether I'm an extrovert or introvert doesn't have anything there. Introvert and extrovert talks only our preferences of how do we process information. So I may like to process information by talking about my pain, my ideas to people. Some people have a preference to sort the things out by themselves by processing it within them. And that's not something right or wrong. Okay, so I have seen best of the best salespeople, hardcore salespeople, been highly introvert.
Oh.
Yeah, so that could be one of the other ways for us to break the myths about the stigma what society has put up on the introverts and extroverts. In fact, both of them are the unique of their own kinds. It's just that their preferences is like for example, if I like rasam over sambar, or maybe example that's maybe not associating to you all, but my preference, I like rasam rice with curd rather than a rasam with a sambar with curd rather than a sambar with ghee on that example. So that's my preference, but that does not mean that it's something wrong about my eating style. So you may deflect, you may reflect, retroflect based on your preferences of how are you relating to what context. So maybe if there is a great intimacy between you and your client, you may also talk about things openly and have an open dialogue about it. But the deflection is more in a context of you tend to escape, you tend not want to address that particular aspect of it. So whether even if you are retroflexion or deflection, these are all your defenses. Okay, so if you're asking a question, if I'm an introvert, how can I be more mindful about expressing myself to people? So that could be very good for me. If I was you, I would probably look at learning about maybe emotional awareness and understanding how can I be more vocal about my expectations from my relationships or from people around. So that's something which resonates to me, to your question, but we don't have so much of time, just be mindful about it. So can I pause here for you, Ravi? Is this sufficient for you?
Yeah.
Okay, great. I'm just checking if there is anyone has any question. Okay, people are sharing. Yeah, thanks. So I'm just being mindful about the timing. So there's something that I have for all of you. What are the ways you can take care of your mental health? One is decompression. So decompression is a space where we say take pause between your coaching sessions. Supervision. Now, when you click this PPT, you will get the blog to read on the supervision. So taking supervision at regular intervals can be very helpful for you to work with your own blind spots. Self-reflection is something which I say meditation or reflecting on your own patterns of what's going on, or maybe writing back about what is your learning about your own self after the client goes or after your day finishes. So that's another way. I've given you some audio file on self-reflection. If you would like to just calm yourself down, this could be a wonderful audio file you can listen to. Then body work is another one that can be very helpful to maybe doing exercises, yoga, fitness, taking break, walking, drinking water, having appropriate diet. So it's very important to work on yourself, on your body, physical body as well. Self-coaching, there's another tool that we created by Ekta. She's my sister. She's also another MCC from ICF and a master practitioner from EMCC. So her tool is very popular. So if you'd like to have an access to it. And we do not get time enough to do an anchoring in the live group session, but anchoring is another process of what would you like to create? Like, for example, if I have a very stressful client and I come out of it, maybe I want to anchor myself to feeling good about myself. So it could be listening to music or self-anchoring to feel good within yourself, or taking a break, taking a walk. So how would you like to anchor to some positives whenever you feel stuck? So these are several ways you could look at, apart from whatever we discussed conceptually, see if that can resonate a lot more. The other thing that I have for you is, these are things that I covered in the competency framework from ICF. If you're a coach and if you would like to upgrade yourself, to learn more about your own self, to upgrade on psychological awareness, I would like to welcome you to Tava Mitram. Okay, Tava Mitram is called in Sanskrit, Tava Mitram is your friend. So we started in 2015 an idea of doing something, contributing something to the society, me and my sister. And we we reached out to people from our network that who would like to accompany with us in this journey. So we got some Mitra coaches who were trained for more than 330 hours in the space of mental health. It could be coaching. So we promote group coaching. This is a whole group concept of group coaching, and for less fortunate people. So this is where we started the whole idea. You can read this all. This year, in the month of May, we came up with a campaign after the pandemic was going on. We felt that we need to do something for our country, not only locally, but globally. So we came up with this campaign, which is called My Mental Health, My Priority, which is a combination of 12 video series of transaction analysis and some information of self-acceptance, anxiety, and depression, where every common man sitting at home can go through this and have a transformational experience within themselves. And the moment we launched that, within a span of a month, we went more than 1,000 people registration. It's a free video certification program that you can go through. Now, when I see the number is 6,400 around. So we reach to corporates as well as to individual. So in case if you, sorry. Is it a question for me? I'm sorry. Okay, would you like to put yourself on mute, people, in case if there is no question? Thank you. So in case if this excites you, feel free to jump in. It's a 12 engaging videos on mental health subjects. Very good for people who are coaches. If you're intending to take coach supervision in future for your own learnings, these concepts can be very powerful. Whatever you watch right now was an added video, but the 12 videos comprises of many other concepts that you can work around and be more mindful about your own personal development. So this is also offered for corporates. So we have something called GDPR, General Data Protection Act. So a company directly can register for their dashboards, and they can get unique username and passwords. They can send it to their employees. If you're an individual person, please go through the common registration process. You get emails, you get access to your own dashboard, and this dashboard is with you for the next 5 years. So you can access, learn about the videos, get your certificate, join us. You can also link us to Tava Mitram on Facebook, or LinkedIn and other places. So so we also offer over and above, if there is any organization wants maybe 100, 200 people have gone through this program and they have question and answer session, we're open to talk to them as well. And in case if anybody wants to be a digital volunteer with us, okay, you can feel free to join us as a Tava Mitram global volunteer with us. And these are all information. There's a free personality assessment on mind, body, well-being, apart from the free certification that we're offering you. We also created something called confession links. So during the time of pandemic, we saw a lot of people going through difficult times. So this is an anonymous confession, and people want to make that, hey, I'm upset, I'm tired, or whatever. No data, no information is collected. Only we don't take any abusive words, so that the system is created in a way that any of the abusive words, cuss words, it doesn't take it further. So that's my sister and me with My Mental Health, My Priority. What is yours? And quickly showing it to you, maybe a small demo if you would like to access it for your organization or team. So just give me 1 second. So this is Tava Mitram website. You can go to, if you want to participate in Mental Health Matters, these are different programs we're running since this whole month. And My Mental Health, My Priority is the program details. You can see, you can watch this video. There are testimonials. You can read more information about reviews and all of that. And if, like, for example, if I am taking the test, I will see this in my dashboard. So strokes, ego states, and all of that. So
we are looking at your PPT only, not the
sorry.
website. We're looking at the PPT only. Are you showing the PPT?
I'm sorry, you're not able to see my website. Oh, I'm sorry for that. I'm showing the whole website to you. Sorry, guys. Yeah. Thanks for bringing that to my awareness. So this is where you will be in case if you're on the website. That's the main website. You get a free certification, My Mental Health, My Priority. And then you can view details in case if you're looking at Mental Health Matters, there are live CD programs that we're running this month from a global perspective that's coming up in this week. This is how the campaign runs. You can have a look at all the questions, things. If you register, you will see this on your dashboard. So if you want to watch the video, after that, there will be a test. 60% is parsing, and it's a pretty interesting test. It's a what we say, it's a white sketch video, so very powerful. So that's my dashboard gonna look like, and I'll log out. So this is where I would like to close my session today. I'm very much mindful about your time and my time too. So if there are any questions for me, feel free to reach out. We're offering a lot of resources on the PPT. Kannan would be the right person to share all the information to everyone who attended this session as well.
Yeah, so, I've just posted the file onto the chat box. People can download who would like to gain more information.
Thank you, Kannan, for such a wonderful opportunity. And Vijay, Kannan, and all the people out there for doing great jobs and inviting me for this wonderful program. I really enjoyed your company. And if there are any questions, feel free to reach out to me at info@tavamitram.org or Dr. Paras at tavamitram.org. I'll be happy to support you. We have provided in such a way that you can yourself register, and there is a self-help button. There's a live chat. Chat is a little limited because it's a non-profit, so we are not always active on chat, but we take a note and revert to you all. So if there's anything else for me, or we're good to say goodbye to each other for now.
I'm just going to take a minute, Paras, and I hope you'll give me the space to share.
Sure.
Okay. So Karan had requested me to do a vote of thanks.
Thank you.
But you know what? I'm just going to wear a totally here and now participant hat. Thank you for the space, Paras. Rather than just hearing concepts and things like that, at least for me, it just made me more in touch, grounded, and quite reflective. In a way, I'm happy we were a small, group that was known to each other. So I think this space was also very safe. And, you always share with a lot of, openness. I've always felt that. So, and I think that's so important about when we have a conversation on mental health, isn't it? So the conversation was easy. And of course, I think like RKT Krishnan had mentioned, it was like a mini class on psychology. So very interesting to revise one or two of the old concepts I knew, and of course, be introduced to some new ones. Thank you so much, Paras. I know this whole month has been very busy for you because you've been running a series of mental health webinars, in which one of them I had joined you, and I know the kind of effort you and Ekta and your whole team has been putting in. And despite that, for honoring the commitment that you gave to ICF Chennai, I think Kannan and I are really happy and grateful for that. Thank you. I do hope that your movement with Tava Mitram really touches many more lives. And if there's any way, we can be of assistance to you as coaches in our individual capacity and as a chapter, please do reach out to us. I must also acknowledge and share here in this group that I think sometime in April, May, when Paras reached out to me, whether I could be one of the ambassadors, I didn't know, whether I, what role I had to play, but I just agreed on an impulse. And today I'm delighted to know that the movement has, taken shape so well. So that's the power of intent, Paras. Thanks a ton once again on behalf of all participants here, all our lovely coaches. You do have some of our best, coaches of our chapter here who are always there to support our chapter events. So thank you, coaches. I know there is a lot of webinar and learning, fatigue, but I'm glad you trusted your intuition and came in here today. If any of you want to unmute yourselves and just, talk about where you are or something for Paras, please go ahead before we bring the session to a close.
I would like to say thank you to you, Vijay, and for supporting from Chennai chapter and a wonderful human being, because I think Atomitram required support of volunteers and you give it from all your schedules. So thank you. And I really love Chennai chapter. Kannan has been an amazing person to work with. So both of the partnership has been amazing. So I look forward to see you all in some different platforms. It was lovely talking to all of you and stay connected. See you, everybody. Have a nice evening. Bye-bye.
See you, everyone.